Have you ever considered why symptoms of autism often overlap with those of post-traumatic stress disorder? Could it be that our esteemed psychologists might not be as astute as we give them credit for? Could it be that they struggle to distinguish between trauma and autism? It's possible that individuals with autism are experiencing trauma, but it's not being recognized as such. Consider this. Perhaps many of the issues we label as ADHD, autism, or schizophrenia are, in fact, reactions to the environment. Picture being forced to sit through a game tutorial, frustrated because you've already played over 1,000 games. You've grasped the concept the moment you heard what the tutorial was about. Yet your intolerance for redundant tutorials could easily get you labeled as having ADHD. Think about taking a job interest test and then only being allowed to carry out the jobs that interest you the least. It's a simple analogy, but isn't this what ADHD feels like? And what about trauma? Does one need to witness death to experience it? Or could it be the realization that we live in a world filled with objectification, passive-aggressive bullying, and general malaise? Sometimes it seems like you can upset people just by saying good morning. Walk past a school as an adult, and you might be labeled a pedophile. Sport a beard, and suddenly you're a member of ISIS. Yet these forms of trauma are not recognized as such, much like how we accept a 2-terabyte hard drive only having 1.8 terabytes as normal. Do we hold psychologists on a pedestal of professionalism? Let's burst that bubble. Psychologists are just regular people. The label of educated often gives a false sense of superiority. If you offered a hospital staff 50,000 euros to end a life, explaining how to do it without getting caught, how many do you think would refuse? Perhaps they'd need a moral nudge, like in places where the death penalty is performed. If you had the chance to prevent future suffering caused by a truly bad person, would you do it for free? I know I would. Society is flawed. Living within it carries its own level of trauma. Without a smidge of trauma, people tend to be superficial. It's trauma that builds character. Remember, every refugee is essentially an economic refugee. What better word to replace economic than ecological? The reasons might differ, but at their core, they are all ecological refugees. In conclusion, it's time we rethink our understanding of mental health, trauma, and societal norms. Perhaps the problem isn't the individual, but the environment in which they exist. Society, with all its flaws, could be the real instigator of the disorders we so readily diagnose.